Hawkeye wrestling great Spencer Lee once said, excuses are for wusses. Enough with the excuses. We turned the page. What's next for Iowa football? They still got 10 more to play. Today, Locked On Hawkeyes.
You are Locked On Hawkeyes, your daily podcast on the Iowa Hawkeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome in. I'm Trent Condon, and this is the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Thanks for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. We're available wherever you find podcasts. You can also watch us on YouTube. While you're there, hit us up with a like, the subscription. We would greatly appreciate it. If you're listening on the audio side, 5-star reviews helps us get in front of more Hawkeye fans. Today's episode of Locked On Hawkeyes is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. As I said at the top, excuses are for wusses. We love the line, so yeah, we need to listen to Spencer Lee. And after the disappointment, the devastation, the frustration that came out of Saturday, we've talked about the reasons, the excuses, how this played out, and how Iowa found themselves in a spot in a late game situation that didn't go their way. We heard from Scott Docterman earlier the week saying that there was perhaps a little bit of malfeasance in terms of clock. Hey, there's a lot of blame to go around. Blame officials, blame coaches, blame players. Maybe blame yourself in the stands for not being loud enough. I don't know. We're just throwing it all around here, but we're turning the page. They're playing this week. There is a game coming up on Saturday afternoon, 3 o'clock kickoff against Troy. Now, Troy a year ago, Troy University. Not talking about Troy Calhoun. Not talking about Troy Skinner. Just the university, Troy. Won 11 games last year. Has been a good team in the Sun Belt. Has built that program up, and they have been a very solid program. However, their coach from a year ago, the last couple of years, is now at Tulane. Doing a really good job, and a Tulane team that had K-State on the ropes over the weekend, and they'll get another shot against Oklahoma this week. Not only is he gone, they return the second least amount of production in the Sun Belt this season. They're really banged up. They have guys that are completely inexperienced playing all over the place. This is not the Troy outfit that won double-figure games a year ago. This is a bad football team. And this, for Iowa, needs to be a get-right game. This is the time now where you take this, all the frustrations, and put it out there. You got 10 more games to go. And we sit here and we dissect and we talk about and we speculate all throughout the spring and the summer about what this is going to be, what this is going to look like. And then you get to the season, you only get 12 opportunities. And Kirk talks about that a lot. Kirk Ferentz talks about the opportunity that is in front of him. One of his greatest strengths is as a leader. He is a guy that is able to rally the troops. He is a coach that up and down nature that you see across college football. In so many programs, it just doesn't hit at the same level at Iowa. And it's a great thing. And if he's able to put out another successful season this year, and they still can have success, if he's able to do that coming on the heels of this, it'll be another great coaching job. Yes, will we like to see some things tweaked, updated, whatever terminology you want to use? I don't think there's any doubt about it. Look, the likelihood is, regardless of when Kirk hangs it up, after this year and 5 years, whenever it is and something in between, whenever it happens, the likelihood that I was going to bring in a coach that is more successful than Kirk Ferentz is very low. That's what we're dealing with here. When we look what's happening at Wisconsin, we'll see the Badgers this week against Alabama. Hey, they went Luke Fickell. They got Phil Longo to run the offense, one of the hot coordinators in college football, and it hasn't worked. Could it? Perhaps. Or it can go the other way. There's a specific way that Iowa is built. Low population state, have another Power 4 program inside the state borders on top of it. Don't have a big recruiting base. There are a lot of demerits. The smallest public university in the Big Ten. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can point to and say that Iowa's behind the eight ball. And it's incredible that over the last almost 50 years now, 45 years, what Hayden Fry and Kirk Ferentz have done with this football program and the consistency that we get out of it year after year after year. It is pretty incredible. And I think at times we do have to sit and pause because the likelihood the next guy is not going to last 20 plus years like we saw from Hayden and Kirk. It just doesn't happen. We've been lucky to have that. And sometimes we do have to take a step back, even as we get so upset. There's a lot of blame on Kirk Ferentz's feet for what happened on Saturday. But we're turning the page. At least we're trying to. Let's get into Troy a little bit more. And taking a look at their statistical profile, mentioned very banged up team. They're going through it right now. Didn't return a lot as is, and you just look at some of the numbers. Third down conversion defensively, 129th in the country. Teams are finishing off 57.1% of their third downs against Troy this season. That's not all. There's more. First down defense, that's not good. 103rd in the country. First down offense, maybe 71st in the country. Kick return defense. Yeah, the special teams are bad too. 123rd. Well, do they return it? Well, no. 101st in the country in kick returns. Net punting, 129th in the country. Passing offense, 104th. I was in good company. Punt return defense, 131st. It's just on and on. Rush defense, though, maybe the biggest one, 119th. This is a game where if Iowa comes in, ready to go, shows up, plays solid football, they're going to win comfortably. They're going to blow past the point spread. They're going to maybe hit the over-under total themselves. That's how bad this Troy outfit is right now, coupled with their injuries. And that's what Iowa can still do. Iowa can still put together that performance. And if we see for the first time all season long, they actually put together a full performance for 4 quarters. Well, now we're cooking going into Big Ten play with Minnesota on the horizon. Minnesota, bye week, then Ohio State. All systems go after that, and then Iowa's going to have to get hot. But it starts here. It starts with a workmanlike effort, playing for 4 quarters, seeing if Cade McNamara is going to be the guy, or if a change is going to be necessary for this team. Cade McNamara wasn't good enough. He will tell you as much. He was not good enough on Saturday for Iowa to win that football game. He left too many throws on the field. He missed too many guys. He didn't make the plays that were there. Make the makeables. And he wasn't able to do that. Now he has to show the ability to do that because there's going to be a lot of makeables on the field on Saturday. So, Cade McNamara, you can't afford a slow start like you had in the first half against Illinois State. You need to come out firing, clicking. This offense needs to be ready to go. They need to show what they are. And the other side, and we rarely have to have this conversation, let's see it from the defense. Let's see them get to the quarterback. Let's see Deontay Craig be the guy that I thought he was going to be this year. Let's see on the other side some guys making some plays. Let's see Nick Jackson out there flying around. Remember a year ago, Nick Jackson really struggled out of the gate, and he hasn't played his best football over the first 2 weeks of the season. Xavier Wampa, you want your job back? Go out there and prove it. He's been getting the number 1 reps after getting benched. Cohen Entringer came in after he gave up the long touchdown to Jalen Noel. So get back out there and show it. No more excuses. Excuses are for wusses. David Eickholt from 24/7 Sports, HawkeyeInsider.com. Set to join us here. We'll talk a little Iowa football with him, get his perspective on the week that was in Iowa football. And then got a few hoops news and notes for you a little bit later in the program here today. But we're trying. It's hard. Turning the page. You got the loudmouth in the office next to you. Went to Iowa State. He's a Cyclone fan. You listen to him chirp all week long. You got commenters coming to your YouTube page. They're making comments. You got people on Twitter. Yeah, we're dealing with it. And certainly, I know not everybody is like us in Central Iowa. It's a different animal here. We're working to turn the page. 10 more opportunities in front of Iowa football. What is next? We'll talk with David Eickholt from 24/7 Sports as we continue. This is Locked On Hawkeyes. Look, I'm busy all the time. We're running around. I got 2 kids. My daughter plays softball. I'm the coach for that softball team. We're all over the place. And we just sometimes don't have time to put together a great meal. That's where Factor can help you out. No prep, no mess meals. I love this part. Look, I've done meal kits before. We've had that as a family many different times, but still, they take time. They take effort. You're chopping up vegetables, you're grilling things up. You got all things going on, and before you know it, an hour and a half's passed before you actually get that meal on the table. Not the case with Factor. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. So no matter how busy you are, you'll always have time to enjoy nutritious, great tasting meals. 35 different meals, more than 60 add-ons to choose from each week. You'll always have new flavors to explore. Crush your wellness goals throughout the fall with dietitian approved meals and ingredients that you can trust. And keep kitchen time to a minimum. Factor meals are ready to go in 2 minutes. No shopping, prepping, cooking, cleaning, all that off the board with Factor. Head to factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50. Make sure you use the code LockedOnCollege50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code LockedOnCollege50 at factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active with Factor Meals. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel and the FanDuel Sportsbook. Well, we got something a little bit different going on. We talk about FanDuel a lot. It's America's #1 sportsbook. Well, with this, we have something different now through September 22nd. All FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. This is available to both new and existing customers at FanDuel Sportsbook. Then with the YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. And if that's not enough, be sure to check out FanDuel's Profit Boost in the app and use it for FanDuel's. Double your winnings for all of Sunday. Coming up September 15th, pregame money line bets. Profit Boost will be live starting Thursday, so you are ready to go at FanDuel. Visit your account page now to learn more about your boost. Oh, coming up this week, 22.5 is the number in Iowa, Troy. The total sits at 38.5. Hey, maybe you're looking at Nebraska as they welcome in-state brethren UNI, the Panthers, getting 32.5 against the Huskers this weekend. They got you covered with so much in college football, the NFL, Major League Baseball coming into the final weeks, and a whole lot more. FanDuel Sportsbook is a place to be. Just visit FanDuel.com to download America's #1 sportsbook.
See him tweet about the quarterback availability as well. You know what, David Eickholt? You were not out of line with that tweet, I thought. I mean, the university could have got in front of that in advance of your tweet yesterday by just, telling everybody, because everybody was going to wonder, right?
Yeah, going to be talking to you guys. Yeah, I mean, everybody's going to wonder. I know I probably could have done a little bit more. I think the university could have done a little bit more, but me and White still had a good talk about it. And it was certainly noteworthy, but, Cade's kind of it's been a very weird media schedule for Cade. I mean, the first week when Kirk Francis was suspended, we got him for about 5 minutes. And then last week we got him at 1:15. And I think with this class schedule and everything, they don't want to make him come back to the building just for media availability. But, we're going to move forward regardless. And, we'll see what happens here over the next week or so.
A lot of rumblings. Well, I shouldn't say a lot. It's social media, message boards about a potential Cade McNamara injury. I saw a still photo of him on the Ortworth play against Illinois State, kind of shaking at his arm, his wrist, kind of holding at it. Have you heard anything? Is it just that rumblings, grumblings, or maybe excuses, whatever it is? Have you heard something about at least a potential injury to Cade McNamara?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I've really heard that has any sort of substance is it was a forearm cramp. So, I mean, it really wasn't anything that's going to be long-term or, who knows if it'll be a reoccurring issue. I don't like speculating into cramps. But from what I've been told, it's just been simple cramps. And, they are projecting that he's going to go out there and be the starting quarterback on Saturday against Troy. But I'm kind of with you. I've seen the rumblings. I've been talking to people behind the scenes a little bit. I'm going to keep an eye on it just for the fact that it has created so much noise. But to my knowledge and based on who I've talked to, I'm not really going to overthink that it's anything more than a simple cramp.
Is there a scenario that, other than, of course, injury, where McNamara has to leave the field, I guess, will we see the backup quarterback at all if this game gets out of hand, or even if it's tight? Or have they got plans for Sullivan, do you think?
I'm still talking to people about that, but I think just given everything that we've sort of seen, I mean, if he doesn't come out and have a strong first half, I mean, I think they're going to have a serious discussion about replacing him with Brendan Sullivan. I do think there are a couple of things that are noteworthy. When you look at Kirk Ferentz's press conferences yesterday, I like to look for the kind of subtle stuff that comes about. And Tyler Kluver pointed this out to me. He said, we're counting on him to step up. They expect him to step up. They think that he's going to step up, but they are expecting him. And there's no reason they shouldn't expect him. He's a 24-year-old. He's 24-year-old, 6th year of eligibility, played a part of 3 different systems over the past 3 years. But at the end of the day, you have to produce. 27 passing yards against that Iowa State defense over the last 3 quarters is completely unacceptable. And I don't see a world where if Iowa runs the ball for 200 yards, they should be able to win every single football game, just given their style of play. So, I think if he goes out there and he really struggles that first half, throws a pick or two, they really don't produce anything, I think they're going to have a serious talk about putting in Brendan Sullivan.
How about a serious talk about something different in the red zone, going a different direction? Does that go to Tim Lester? I mean, is that where the blame really needs to go? Play calling inside the 5-yard line, 6 opportunities early on, and just 6 points to show it. Is it Lester, or are we going back to relying on old Ferentz ball?
I think it is on Lester, but I also think, Kirk Ferentz being the head coach, he still has to be held accountable to some extent, right? Yep. Because you're right. If you have first and goal at the 1-yard line, if you have first and goal at the 3-yard line, there's absolutely no reason that Iowa should have only had 2 field goals. I'm of the belief, and again, maybe it's captain hindsight here, there was no reason Iowa should not have run the ball 4 straight times on at least one of the series. Make Iowa State be, I think that 14 personnel needs to go completely out the window. With all due respect to Johnny Pascuzzi, it was a mission. It was set up for him to fail, blocking 101 Dominique Orange on the play that did get blown up on that first and goal from the 1-yard line. But I also think you need to give Lester a little bit of the blame, because I know Caleb Johnson's tired, but you have a guy averaging 9 yards a carry. Why is he not the one carrying the ball from the 1-yard line? I think Kamari Moulton's a good back. I think he's a good short yardage back. I think he's really, really improved. I think he's going to be a good football player for Iowa. But Caleb Johnson was single-handedly dominating that game along with the Iowa offensive line. I think they should have spread it out more. I think the fact that Cade McNamara went 1 of 4 on those plays, I don't know why Iowa was trying to pass the ball in the red zone from that close, because, Trent, when's the last time Iowa's had a good red zone passing attack?
1987.
I would at least go back to Nate Stanley when he had TJ Hawkinson and Noah Fant.
That was a pretty good duo.
But that's probably about it.
Yeah, that was a pretty good duo. Xavier Wampka, what do we read into this, David? He's at top of the depth chart again. I think you guys had Entringer yesterday, did you not? What do we read into Wampka? I thought he was going to take just a massive step forward this year. And again, we're 2 games into the season, but we haven't seen that step yet.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I still think he has potential to take a big step forward. I think, there's 10 games left. Maybe this is the thing that really lights the fire under him, even more of a fire. I mean, you guys know Xavier Wampa. Great kid, outstanding ball player, one of the greats in Iowa high school football history, 5-star for a ranking for a reason. I think this could really light a fire under him. I mean, talking to Cohen Entringer yesterday, Cohen said that he has not gotten starting reps this week. So Xavier Wampa is at the top of the depth chart. He is going to be the one starting out there. But I'm very curious what the leash is going to look like, because, in Phil Parker's system, what happened when Jalen Noel broke off Jay Higgins and hit that double move and was wide open for that touchdown, that just does not happen in Phil Parker's system. What does he always preach? Prevent explosive plays. And obviously Iowa State had more than a handful of them. And, once Entringer got in, I think Cohen did a good job there as well. But I'm curious what the leash is going to look like for Xavier Wampa. But from everything we've been told, and I've talked to behind the scenes, I have no reason to believe that Xavier Wampa will not be the starting strong safety come Saturday.
One of the more disappointing aspects, I think, at least in the early going, has been the defensive line. I thought that there was going to be a big step forward, like guys like Deontay Craig. Aaron Graves had the 3 sacks in the first game. And where was he last Saturday? Nowhere to be found. Defensive line, we talked so much about building depth, but the 4 starters, could he say a little disappointing 2 games in?
I think they've been okay. I mean, I think this has kind of been the part of the defense we've all been kind of, keeping a very close eye on. I actually think they had Rocco Becht more rattled than Rocco Becht ever looked in his entire career in that first quarter. And, from after the first about 20, 25 minutes, I really thought this game was going to get out of hand. I saw Iowa winning by about 17. But you need to give Rocco Becht a lot of credit. And I know I thought Iowa's defensive line still got pretty decent push for the most part. I think they really slowed down Abu Sama. I think they got after Rocco Becht. I know Rocco Becht's completion percentage was really high, but I think you need to give Rocco a lot of credit because there were times where I thought he escaped the pocket really well, threw on the move, made the right decisions, got through his progressions. But I'm with you. I think I would have liked to see a few more explosive plays. I know Max Llewellyn had that sack last week against him as well. But, I may be keeping a close eye. I wouldn't even say this week. I mean, you really need to see Iowa's defensive line take a step forward next week against Minnesota. And regardless of what happens this Saturday, that game against Minnesota is a season changer. They have to win that game because if they beat Troy, they lose to Minnesota, you get a bye week, then you go at Ohio State. I mean, think about this team going 2-3 in their first 5 games and 6 weeks in. I mean, I think it's completely unacceptable. So I'm going to be keeping a close eye on that. I still think Deontay Craig could have a very big year. But I'd also like to point out if there's one shining spot on that defensive line, I think you got to give Y.A. Black a lot of credit. I know Aaron Graves is getting the sacks, but Y.A. Black, forget the stats for a second. Just watch him rep after rep. He's making such a big, big difference for that defense.
When you put it that way, that this team could be 2-3 if it doesn't go well in the Twin Cities with Ohio State looming after the bye. Look out below. Did you guys have Sebastian Castro yesterday? And the reason I ask is, boy, he took it really hard on Saturday. Sure. I mean, he's been phenomenal. He's one of the best players on the team. Did he have his best game on Saturday? Probably not. He'd like to have a couple of those plays back. Did you have him yesterday? Because going back to Saturday, I felt for him.
No, you're exactly right. We did not have him yesterday, but going back to his interview, I mean, I thought he took great accountability. I think there was a very heavy sense of disappointment. I think, Sebastian just holds himself to high regard. I thought he made 2 great plays out in the flat in that second half. But I also think you look at maybe some of those plays late in that second half where, Sebastian probably could have covered up a little bit more. But, I'm not one to question Phil Parker, so I don't want to seem condescending when I say this. It was just so unlike Iowa on that final drive against Iowa State to play press man coverage. I didn't expect Iowa to play prevent defense. I thought they'd go cover 2 or cover 3 or something of the sort, but I was just stunned when you see it Jaden Higgins, when you see it Jalen Knoll. The fact that Iowa was going press man-to-man coverage in that sort of situation was just, it was intriguing to me to say the least, just because we really haven't seen Iowa do that much of it. And I would also argue that Iowa State's quarterback and wide receiver combination is probably the second best that Iowa's going to see all year, maybe outside of Ohio State.
I don't think there's any doubt. Yeah, absolutely. David, you've been covering this program now for a number of years. When we have these conversations, at least recently, they find a way. I think it's Kirk Ferentz, maybe his greatest strength as a football coach. When adversity comes, his teams respond every single time. Do you think we see that this is a bad Troy outfit? Yeah, they won 11 games a year ago. This is not the same squad. What do you expect to see on Saturday?
With all due respect, Trent, I mean, even if Iowa has a strong response and they win 45-0, I'm not going to be the one, ringing the bells and singing praises. I mean, I think at this point, with this experience of a team, I think you need to see what they do against Minnesota. You need to see what they do against Ohio State. You got to see what they do against Washington. If they go at Michigan State, that could be a night game as well. So whatever happens this weekend, I think it's important for the offense to try to recapture some momentum. But I also think people are going to be very, very cautious about how much praise that they kind of heave on this Iowa team. I think they'll be back bought in and they'll be invested when it comes to the Floyd or Rosedale week. But this year just has a different feeling than any other year. And I really can't quite put my finger on that. But I don't think we're going to see the true potential of this Iowa team. I don't think we're going to see the true temperature of the fan base until we're talking a month from now.
David Eickholt from 24/7 Sports joining us here, and great to catch up with David. Good perspective, and I think he brings up a really good point when you look at kind of what's next with this team and when are we going to know what they really are. Still going to take a while. Minnesota, I mean, if they throttle Troy this week, beat Minnesota, find a way to get a win against Minnesota, it'll probably be a low-scoring slugfest, and get blown up by Ohio State. What do we really know? Not a lot. It'll be those final 2 months that'll really dictate exactly what this Iowa football team is. A couple news and notes for you when we continue. This is the Locked On Hawkeyes Podcast. Today's episode of Locked On Hawkeyes is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you need to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. As a small business owner, I have been looking for people at different times for different jobs that we have, and it is so difficult to find those right candidates. Just getting the right people in there. You know they're out there, finding them. LinkedIn Jobs makes it easy to find them. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. If you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Trent Condon back with you one final time here on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. So, bounce back game against Troy. Go out there, throttle them, get Brendan Sullivan some reps, get everybody to play, have smiles on everybody's faces. All is right in the world. Let's do that, right? No dinking around. We don't want to see a reprieve of Central Michigan, Arkansas State in 2009. I mean, had to escape that one. There's been some ugly ones. South Dakota State a couple of years ago. Let's not do that. Let's just have an good old-fashioned butt whooping for Troy coming up here. I'll give them their check. They get back on the plane and head back home. And then we can start to think about Big Ten play and a huge one against Minnesota, but followed up by the Ohio State matchup. There's a lot happening there. But on the other side, you also got recruiting happening. Recruits have been on campus the last couple of weeks. You'll have more likely that'll be here this weekend on the football front. I do want to mention the basketball, though. So we find out that Iowa's Big Ten games that they'll be playing, the early ones, if you will, late November, early December. One of them, John Rothstein, had the matchup against Northwestern. Iowa will be the host game against the Wildcats coming up on December 3rd in that early Big Ten schedule. So that's one to keep an eye on, obviously, for Iowa. And they have struggled so much in those early Big Ten games. I mean, how many years since this thing started, 6, 7, 8 years ago, as Iowa started 0 for 2? Sounds like I need a little research, and we'll take a look at that number. But it's a huge key. I believe this Iowa basketball team is going to be a whole lot better. I think they're going to be an NCAA tournament team at minimum. That is my expectation level for this squad this year. I think they're going to be top 7, 8 in the Big Ten. Remember, we're talking about an 18-team league, and that's going to be good enough to be an NCAA tournament team. But have to prove it. Need to see growth out of a bunch of the guys, and I think we're going to see it coming up this season. But they're welcoming in 3 different 4-stars from On3 Media coming up this weekend. One of them, a 6'11" center, Tommy Anneman, who started his high school career in North Dakota, is now finishing up in Minnesota. Gophers are heavily involved. Nebraska is also in the mix for him. He was scheduled to visit Wisconsin. The Badgers, though, they just got a commitment from a big man of their own and look like they're moving on from Anneman, but he's ranked 94th in the country. The second visitor coming in this week, this is an interesting name, Amari Bynum. So Bynum, long, lanky forward from Omaha. Nebraska, probably the team to beat. We'll see if Creighton gets involved with them. Hasn't been the case yet. LSU, Colorado, Ohio State, Xavier, some of the other spots. 83rd in the country from the rankings from On3 Media. That's where they have him on this one. Nebraska sits as the favorite at this point from their metrics that they use over there, but also has a little background to Iowa State, where his dad played. No interest, though, from Iowa State at this point in time. And then the final one, really intriguing, a guard from California, Maisie Mosley. So Mosley is going to finish up his high school career at a prep school. Pretty big one. Montverde Academy down in Florida. That's where he's going to finish up. This is a top 60 player, ranked 57th in the country. Some places have him a top 50 player. He's visited USC. Well, California kid. Okay, that makes sense. Michigan also on his list. And this is the final scheduled visit that he has. That's interesting. Michigan might be the team to beat on this one. USC has the local angle, if you will. We'll see where Iowa falls in this and what they can compete with on the financial side of NIL and just what they can kind of sell him on ability to maybe come in and be an impact player. But getting a guard like that, boy, that would be big time. 3 four stars, coming in this weekend. They had a host of them also last week for him, McCaffrey and company, doing some work on the trail. I know NIL is a big component. There's other programs out there. The evolution of college basketball is we're seeing a lot of teams, they just don't really recruit at the high school level anymore. They just portal shop for their recruits. So it is a different environment. We'll see if Iowa can take a hold and maybe build this thing back up. And let's get to a second weekend. With that, we are out of time. Thanks for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. Appreciate each and every one of you. And thanks to our great sponsors as well. We will be back with you one final time on Friday. Our last look, either Friday night into Saturday morning, getting ready for the matchup at Troy. We'll take a little deeper look at them and continue to talk about what is next. Instant Reaction Podcast also coming your way as we'll be back home this weekend. Not going to make it to Kinnick Stadium, sadly, this weekend, but I will be hanging out with my family. My daughter has her first fall softball tournament, and Coach Condon, we are ready to go. We'll see. Thanks for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. Go Hawks.